What the hell is this? Oh, it's you!
Bryce Callahan blocked the door, glaring at the black janitor as if brushing dust off his shoes.
Every time you come in, this place stinks. Have you ever heard of soap?
Jerome Fletcher gripped the mop tightly. He said nothing. Bryce stepped closer.
Fight me! Janitor, just for fun. Just one round. I'll even let you strike first.
Jerome looked him straight in the eye. Calm.
I'm only here to clean, sir.
Yeah, that's all you'll do.
The other 3 students watched in silence. But this was something Bryce didn't know. Who had he just picked a fight with? And he had no idea what was about to happen. That janitor will make him regret it for the rest of his life. Charlotte, North Carolina, 6:15 in the morning. The sky was still purple when Jerome Fletcher pulled his truck into the back lot of Summit Elite MMA. The engine coughed twice before it died. He sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, staring at the building through a cracked windshield. Summit Elite wasn't the kind of gym where regular people trained. It was all glass walls, polished concrete, and LED lights that changed color with the music. Monthly membership started at $300. The parking lot was full of BMWs and Land Rovers. The lobby smelled like eucalyptus and new money. Jerome grabbed his mop bucket from the truck bed and walked to the service entrance around back. No front door for him. Never the front door. He was 52 years old, thick hands, a quiet face that didn't give much away. He walked with a slight limp in his left knee, an old injury most people assumed came from mopping wet floors too long. It didn't. Jerome worked for a staffing agency called ProServe Solutions. They paid him $14 an hour, no benefits, no sick days. Summit Elite was his biggest contract, 5 days a week, 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., scrubbing mats, bleaching showers, emptying trash cans full of protein bar wrappers and used tape. He never complained, never talked much at all. The other staff barely noticed him. To them, he was background noise, a man in gray coveralls pushing a mop, invisible. But there was something about Jerome that didn't quite fit. The way he moved through the gym was different. When he wiped down the heavy bags, his hands wrapped around them like he'd held them 1,000 times before. When a punching pad fell off the rack, he caught it midair without looking. Reflexes too fast for a man who supposedly spent his life cleaning floors. Once, Dana Wilson, the front desk receptionist, watched Jerome pick up a 60-pound kettlebell that a client left in the hallway. He lifted it with one hand, casual, like picking up a coffee cup. She almost said something. She didn't. What nobody at Summit knew, what Jerome had buried deep and kept locked, was this. Jerome Fletcher had once been the Ghost. 24 wins, 3 losses, 14 finishes. A UFC career that spanned 8 years and left a trail of highlight reels that still circulated on fight forums. He was a pressure fighter, the kind who walked you down slowly, cut off the cage, and then exploded. His rear naked choke was considered one of the tightest in the middleweight division. But that was another life. 9 years ago, his wife Nadine got sick, stage 4. The medical bills came like a flood. Jerome sold everything, the house, the car, the belt he kept in a glass case. He stopped fighting and spent every remaining dollar keeping her comfortable. She passed on a Tuesday morning in April, quiet, holding his hand. After that, Jerome didn't see the point in being the Ghost anymore. He packed the trophies in boxes, moved into a small duplex on the east side of Charlotte, and picked up the first job that didn't ask questions. That job was mopping floors. Some nights, alone in his garage, he still shadow-boxed. Old combinations. Jab, cross, slip, hook. His body remembered everything. The muscle memory lived in his bones, like a second language he never forgot but stopped speaking out loud. At Summit Elite, though, he was nobody. Just the janitor. Just mop guy. And that was fine with him. He didn't need recognition. Didn't want it. But the owner of Summit Elite, Bryce Callahan, had other plans. Bryce was 38, third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 85,000 followers on social media. He ran a weekly live stream called Open Challenge Friday, where he invited people to spar with him on camera. It was good content, great for clicks. Lately, though, the clicks had been slowing down. Bryce needed something fresh, something that would go viral. And every time he looked at Jerome, quiet, invisible, defenseless Jerome, he saw exactly what he needed. A punching bag that wouldn't hit back. Or so he thought. It started on a Tuesday. Jerome was restocking paper towels in the equipment room when Bryce walked in and shut the door behind him. No greeting, no small talk, just a phone held up, already recording. "Hey, Jerome, quick question." Bryce leaned against the door frame, grinning into the camera. "You ever been in a fight? Like a real one?" Jerome kept stacking towels. "No, sir." "Come on, man. Not even in school? Not even in the street?" Bryce zoomed in on Jerome's face. "Big guy like you? I don't believe that." "I don't fight, Mr. Callahan." Bryce lowered the phone. The grin stayed, but his eyes went cold. "Here's what I'm thinking. Next Friday, I'm doing my live stream. Open challenge. I want you on the mat." Jerome stopped stacking, turned slowly. "I'm a janitor. That's not in my contract." "It's not a contract thing. It's a fun thing." Bryce shrugged. "Just content. You throw a couple punches, I go easy on you, everybody laughs. My audience will love it." "I appreciate the offer, but no." Bryce stared at him for a long moment. Then he pocketed his phone, opened the door wide, and called out to the training floor. "Hey, everybody. I just asked Jerome to spar with me on Friday. Guess what he said?" A few students looked over. Bryce put his hands up in mock surrender. "He said no. Can you believe it?" He turned back to Jerome, loud enough for the whole gym to hear. "What's wrong, mop guy? Scared you'll mess up your uniform?" Laughter. Not a lot, but enough. Jerome said nothing. He picked up his bucket and walked out through the back hallway. His jaw was tight, his hands were steady, but something behind his eyes shifted, just barely. That night, Bryce sat in his office reviewing analytics. Views down 30%, engagement dropping, sponsors asking questions. He pulled up the clip he'd recorded of Jerome in the equipment room, watched it twice. Then he picked up his phone and called ProServe Solutions. "Yeah, it's Bryce Callahan at Summit Elite. I need to talk about your janitor. Either he cooperates with a promotional event, or I'm canceling the contract." The trap was set. The call from ProServe came the next morning. Jerome's supervisor, a woman named Linda, didn't waste time. "Jerome, listen, Callahan is our biggest account. Whatever he's asking you to do, just do it. Smile, nod, don't make this complicated." "He wants me to fight on camera, Linda." "He wants you to participate in a promotional event. That's what the contract says now." She paused. "If we lose Summit Elite, we lose 40% of our revenue, and you lose your job. Understand?" Jerome understood. He always did. That Wednesday, things changed. Bryce started giving Jerome tasks that had nothing to do with cleaning. He called them team-building exercises. They were something else entirely. During the noon class, the busiest session, 20 students on the mat, Bryce snapped his fingers and pointed at Jerome. "Yo, mop guy, come here. Hold this bag for me." Jerome walked over and held the heavy bag. Bryce threw kicks into it, hard, each one landing like a gunshot. The bag slammed into Jerome's ribs, his chest, his shoulder. "Tighter," Bryce said. "Hold it tighter. What, you can't even do this right?" The students watched. Some looked uncomfortable. Most said nothing. Bryce recorded everything. Thursday was worse. Mid-session, Bryce called Jerome to the center of the mat. "Hey, I need this area mopped, right now, the whole thing." Jerome looked at the 20 students still drilling. "Right now? During class?" "Did I stutter?" Jerome mopped. Students stepped around him. One almost tripped. Bryce caught it on camera and laughed. "Watch out, guys. Wet floor. Our janitor doesn't understand timing." More laughter, louder this time. Then came Friday. Jerome was carrying a stack of heavy bags across the training floor, 60 pounds each, 3 of them, when Bryce stuck his foot out. Casual, like it was an accident. Jerome went down hard. The bags scattered. His knee, the bad one, cracked against the concrete edge of the mat. Pain shot through his leg like electricity. The gym went quiet for half a second. Then Bryce pulled out his phone, aimed it at Jerome on the floor, and grinned. "Staff training day," he said, posting it with a laughing emoji. 3 students chuckled. 1 turned away. Jerome got up slowly, didn't say a word, picked up the bags one by one, and kept walking. That video got 18,000 views by Saturday morning. Dana Wilson watched the whole thing from the front desk. She didn't laugh. She opened her phone, created a new folder, and labeled it Evidence. She'd already saved 6 clips, dates, times, witnesses. She didn't tell anyone. Not yet. That same Saturday, 12 miles across town, a man named Terrence Moore was sitting in his barber shop, scrolling through Instagram, when the Staff Training Day clip popped up on his feed. He almost dropped his clippers. He watched it 3 times, zoomed in, studied the face of the man on the floor. "No way," he whispered. Then louder, "No damn way." Terrence had spent 6 years as Jerome Fletcher's cornerman. He'd wrapped those hands before title fights. He'd watched the Ghost dismantle ranked fighters in sold-out arenas. He knew that face like he knew his own. He called Jerome that night. "Ghost, tell me that ain't you mopping floors for that clown." Long silence. Then, "Terrence, let it go." "Let it go? That man tripped you on camera. 18,000 people watched you fall. You, the guy who made Anderson-class fighters tap in the 2nd round." "That was a long time ago." "Your hands don't know that. Your body don't know that. Brother, what are you doing?" "I'm surviving, Terrence. That's what I'm doing." Terrence went quiet. Then, softly, "You know where to find me when you're ready." Jerome hung up. He sat in his garage for a long time that night, staring at his hands. The following Friday, Bryce went further than anyone expected. Open Challenge Friday, live stream rolling, 12,000 viewers. Bryce stood in the center of the mat in his pressed white gi, microphone in hand, playing the crowd like a talk show host. All right. Tonight's challenge is special." He reached into his gym bag and pulled out 5 crisp $100 bills, slapped them on the mat. $500, cash, right here. The chat exploded, comments flying. "Here's the deal," Bryce said. "Any staff member, anyone who works in this building, who can last 1 round with me gets this money. 1 round, 3 minutes, that's it." He scanned the room slowly, passed over the trainers, passed over the front desk. His eyes landed on Jerome, standing in the back corner with a mop. "What about you, mop guy?" Bryce pointed. $500. That's a lot of mop handles." The students turned. Some grinned. A few started chanting. "Mop man, mop man, mop man." Jerome stood perfectly still. The mop handle in his grip didn't move. His face gave away nothing. Bryce shook his head, laughing. "Yeah, that's what I thought." He turned back to the camera. "Can't even get the janitor to step up. Guess some people are born to clean." The stream hit 19,000 viewers. After the gym emptied that night, Dana Wilson found Jerome in the supply closet, sitting on an overturned bucket. She stood in the doorway for a moment before speaking. "Jerome, I've been recording everything. Every clip, every comment, every date. I have it all on my phone." Jerome looked up. "I don't know who you are," she said quietly, "but I know you're not what he says you are. And when you're ready to do something about this, you'll have proof." She set a folded piece of paper on the shelf, her phone number. Then she walked away. Jerome sat there alone for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone and called Terrence Moore. "You said I know where to find you." He paused. "I'm ready." Terrence's barbershop sat on a quiet street on the east side of Charlotte. Faded sign, 3 chairs, a TV on the wall that only played sports. Jerome walked in Sunday morning. Terrence locked the door behind him. They didn't waste time. Terrence pulled up Bryce's competition footage on a laptop. Tournament matches, sparring clips, his live stream highlights. They watched every second. "He's sloppy against southpaws," Terrence said, pausing a clip. "Look, every time someone switches stance, he reaches, drops his right hand." Jerome nodded. "He gasses, too. Watch round 2 of the regional. He's breathing through his mouth by the 90-second mark." "So you take him down early. Pressure. Don't give him air." Jerome leaned back. "I'll do it, but not without protection." Terrence made a call that afternoon. Patricia Graves, civil rights attorney, 14 years of practice, sharp as a scalpel. She listened, asked 3 questions, and agreed immediately. The plan was simple. Jerome would accept the next open challenge Friday, but everything had to be documented, signed waiver, witnesses present, full video from multiple angles, legal consent recorded before a single glove touched the mat. Patricia would be watching the live stream in real time. The following Monday, Jerome walked into Summit Elite, found Bryce in his office, and said 5 words. "I'll take your challenge, sir." Bryce leaned back in his chair and smiled like a man who'd already won. He had no idea he'd just signed his own destruction. Friday night, 8 o'clock. Summit Elite was packed. Bryce had promoted the event all week. Instagram stories, TikTok teasers, a countdown on his website. Every post carried the same caption. "The janitor said yes. Live Friday. Don't miss it." 12,000 viewers were watching before a single punch landed. The gym floor had been cleared. Mats laid out in a 20-foot square. Ring lights at every corner. 2 cameras rolling. Students lined the edges, 3 rows deep, phones raised, buzzing with nervous energy that smelled like something about to go wrong. Bryce stepped onto the mat first. Fresh white gi, black belt tied with precision. He bounced on his toes, rolled his neck, threw sharp shadowboxing combos for the camera. Relaxed, confident. Every movement calculated for content. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said into a wireless mic, arms spread wide, "welcome to Open Challenge Friday. Tonight, a Summit Elite exclusive." He let the pause build. "Our very own janitor has agreed to step on the mat with me. 1 round, 3 minutes. Let's see what the mop guy's got." He winked at the camera. The chat scrolled in a blur. Then, Jerome walked out. Gray coveralls, work boots, no gloves, no mouthguard, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He looked like a man who just finished a night shift at a warehouse. Half the room laughed. "Looking good, mop guy," someone yelled. Laughter rippled. A few students offered slow, mocking claps that echoed off the glass walls. Bryce tossed sparring gloves across the mat. Jerome caught them one-handed, quick, clean, no fumble. Two students exchanged a glance. Most didn't notice. He pulled the gloves on, velcroed them tight, stepped onto the mat like a man entering his own kitchen. Unhurried, completely at ease. Bryce slid a waiver across. Jerome signed it. Then he pulled a second copy from his back pocket, prepared by Patricia Graves, and handed it to Bryce. "For your records." Bryce scribbled his name without reading. The crowd cheered. 3 minutes on the clock," the assistant called. "Go." Bryce came forward, hands high, chin tucked, classic BJJ posture, patient, waiting for the clinch. He flicked a jab, loose, lazy, a rangefinder. Jerome slipped it. Not blocked, not stepped back. Slipped. Head offline, shoulders rotating, weight shifting like a door swinging open to let the fist pass through empty air. Bryce blinked. Threw another jab. Faster. Jerome slipped that one too. Same rotation, same calm. Like smoke bending around a fist that couldn't find anything solid. The laughter died. A murmur crawled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Wait, did you see that?" Bryce reset. Came forward with real intent. Jab, cross, low kick. Clean combination, fast and sharp. Jerome checked the kick on his shin. Parried the cross. Countered. A short right hand. Compact, no wind-up, 6 inches of travel. It landed flush on the hinge of Bryce's jaw. The sound cut through the gym like a dictionary snapping shut. Bryce stumbled backward 2 full steps. His mouthguard shifted. His eyes went wide, not with pain, but with recognition. The sudden understanding that he had made a terrible mistake. The grin vanished. The gym went dead silent. Jerome didn't chase. He stood center mat in a southpaw stance, hands loose, breathing through his nose. His eyes tracked Bryce with the patience of a man who had done this 100 times, reading, waiting for the mistake he already knew was coming. Bryce charged, a desperate double-leg takedown, hips too high, arms too wide, chin exposed. The kind of shot a man throws when panic replaces technique. Jerome sprawled, hips dropped like an anchor. The takedown died on contact. Then the ghost woke up. Level change, single leg sweep. Bryce hit the mat so hard the thud echoed off the ceiling. The front row stepped back. Jerome moved through positions like water, side control, knee across the belly. Bryce gasped, a short, panicked sound the camera picked up clearly. He tried to bridge, tried to scramble. Jerome let him turn. That was the trap. Bryce walked right into it. Bryce gave up his back. Jerome sank both hooks, locked the body triangle around Bryce's torso. Bryce's hands clawed at Jerome's forearm, desperate, frantic, fingernails scraping skin. Nothing moved. Nothing gave. The rear naked choke slid under Bryce's chin. Slow, methodical, inevitable. Bryce's face turned red, then purple. His breathing became wet and shallow. His legs kicked the mat twice, then stopped. His right hand rose, trembling. Tap, tap, tap. Jerome released. Immediately, cleanly. No extra second. No revenge. He stood and extended his hand. Bryce didn't take it. He rolled onto his side, coughing, gasping, hands clutching his throat. Eyes on the ceiling, empty, hollow, shattered. A man watching his reputation leave his body in front of the entire internet. 92 seconds. That was all it took. The gym erupted. Students screamed. Phones swung wildly. Dana Wilson's hands trembled so hard her first seconds blurred, but she captured everything. The slip, the counter, the takedown, the choke, the tap, and Bryce's face. A man who just discovered he was never who he pretended to be. The chat became unreadable. 12,000 became 40,000 in under 2 minutes. Who is this guy? The janitor just ended him. That ain't no mop man. Jerome didn't celebrate, didn't raise his fists, didn't look at a single camera. He walked off the mat, removed the gloves, set them on the counter, picked up his mop, and started cleaning the lobby floor. A young student, the quiet one who never laughed at the jokes, approached slowly. He stood watching Jerome push the mop across the tile for a long moment. "Sir," he said softly, "who are you?" Jerome didn't look up. "I'm the janitor, son." By Saturday morning, the clip had 2 million views. By Sunday, 5 million. MMA journalists pulled the thread. Forum users matched Jerome's face to archived UFC footage. Highlight reels of The Ghost, silent for 9 years, resurfaced across every platform. One hashtag captured it all. Hashtag Mopman is the ghost. It trended for 3 straight days. But while the internet celebrated, Bryce Callahan sat alone in his locked office, ice pack on his neck, phone against his ear, hands still shaking. Elliot Hayward, I need you now." His voice was low, tight, vibrating with something darker than embarrassment. "That janitor destroyed me in front of 5 million people. I want him finished, sued, broke. I want his name erased." He hung up and stared at the dark screen. The ghost had returned. And Bryce was about to gamble everything on making sure it was the last time. The celebration lasted 48 hours. Then Bryce Callahan burned it all down. Monday morning, a process server showed up at Jerome's duplex before sunrise. He handed Jerome a thick envelope and walked away without a word. Inside was a civil lawsuit filed by Bryce Callahan against Jerome Fletcher. The charges: aggravated assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and reckless endangerment on commercial property. The dollar amount at the bottom of the page? $250,000. Jerome read it 3 times at his kitchen table, alone, coffee going cold. Then he called Patricia Graves. "They're saying the waiver was signed under duress," Patricia said after reviewing the filing. "His attorney is arguing that because you worked under a staffing contract at his gym, you were coerced into fighting by your employer, that it wasn't truly voluntary." He dared me to fight, on camera, in front of 12,000 people. I know that, but that's not the version they're telling. It wasn't. By Tuesday, Bryce's attorney, Elliot Hayward, had released a carefully edited version of the fight to every news outlet in Charlotte. The clip was 90 seconds long, but it was a very different 90 seconds. The opening had been cut clean off. No taunts, no dare, no fight me mop guy, no slow claps, no laughter from students, no $500 slapped on the mat. The edited version started the moment Jerome threw the counter right hand. In this version, it looked like Jerome, a large, powerful black man, attacked an unsuspecting gym owner without any provocation whatsoever. The choke was there. The tap was not. The clip ended with Bryce on the floor, gasping, clutching his throat. Freeze frame. No context, No aftermath. Just a man lying on the ground, looking like a victim. Local news ran it first. Gym janitor assaults business owner during charity event. Then regional outlets followed. Then national blogs and podcasts. The headlines wrote themselves, and every single one of them was wrong. By Wednesday morning, Jerome was fired. Linda from ProServe Solutions called at 7 a.m. No greeting, no warmth. Jerome, we're terminating your assignment effective immediately. Mr. Callahan's legal team has contacted us directly. We can't afford the exposure. Linda, you saw what happened. You know he started. I know our biggest client is suing you, and your face is on the evening news. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. The line went dead. Jerome sat in his truck in the driveway for 20 minutes. Engine off, hands on the wheel, going nowhere. That afternoon, Bryce gave a televised interview on a Charlotte news station. He wore a neck brace. His right arm was in a sling. Neither injury was real. Jerome's choke had been clean, textbook, and he'd released the instant Bryce tapped. But on camera, under soft studio lighting, Bryce looked like a man who had barely survived a brutal assault. I just wanted to include him, Bryce told the interviewer, voice cracking with rehearsed emotion. I thought it would be a fun team-building moment. I never expected violence. I never expected to be attacked like that in my own gym. He dabbed his eyes with a tissue. The interviewer nodded sympathetically. I'm scared to go back, Bryce added, staring into the camera. I don't feel safe in the place I built with my own hands. The interview clip went viral, but this time in the wrong direction. Comment sections cracked in half. Half the internet still supported Jerome. The other half watched the edited footage, saw the neck brace, and believed every word Bryce said. That janitor should be locked up. He's twice Callahan's size. That wasn't self-defense, that was assault. Doesn't matter if he used to fight professionally. You can't choke someone unconscious. The tide was turning, and Bryce knew exactly what he was doing. That night, inside his locked office at Summit Elite, Bryce sat across from Elliot Hayward with a glass of whiskey in his hand. The neck brace was off, tossed on the couch. The sling hung over the back of his chair. He was smiling for the first time in 5 days. The edited tape is bulletproof, Bryce said, swirling his glass. No one's going to believe the janitor over me. A broke, unemployed janitor versus a business owner with 85,000 followers? It's not even close. Elliot nodded. The optics are in our favor. His attorney will push for original footage. But the live stream was on your platform, your account, your content. Exactly. Bryce took a slow sip. And that archive is already gone. I deleted it the night of the fight. Elliot raised an eyebrow. All copies? Every single one. What Bryce didn't know, what Elliot Hayward didn't know, was that the live stream platform automatically archived every broadcast on its own servers, independent of the user's account, independent of any deletion. Patricia Graves knew this. 14 years in civil rights law had taught her exactly how platforms stored data and what could be recovered. On Thursday morning, Patricia filed 2 motions with the court. The first was a countersuit on Jerome's behalf: workplace harassment, racial discrimination, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The filing included Dana Wilson's complete documentation, dates, screenshots, video clips of every incident, and signed statements from 3 students willing to testify as witnesses. The second motion was a formal platform data preservation request, demanding the unedited, server-side archive of Bryce Callahan's Open Challenge Friday livestream. The platform's legal compliance team responded within 24 hours. The archive existed, fully intact, time-stamped, unaltered. Every second preserved on their servers exactly as it had aired. The taunts, the dare, the snapping fingers, the mocking claps, the $500 on the mat. And the tap. 3 clear, undeniable palm strikes that Bryce had carefully removed from his edited version. Patricia forwarded the confirmation to Judge Catherine Moore. On Friday, exactly 1 week after the fight, the judge reviewed the platform's response and issued her ruling. Granted, in full. The complete, unedited archive would be entered as evidence. Bryce received the notification from Elliot at 4:15 p.m. He read the email twice, then a third time. His hands were shaking, but not from rage this time, from fear. "Elliot," he said into the phone, "they have the full stream. The platform saved everything." Long silence. "Elliot, say something. You told me you deleted all copies." "I deleted mine. I didn't know they kept..." "You filed a lawsuit built on an edited video. You gave a televised interview in a fake neck brace. And now the court has original footage that contradicts every single word." Silence. "Bryce, do you understand what happens next?" Bryce understood. For the first time since he tossed that glove at Jerome's feet, he understood exactly what he had done to himself. And there was no deleting his way out of this one. The hearing was scheduled for a Wednesday morning, courtroom 4B, Judge Catherine Moore presiding. Jerome arrived early. Dark suit, clean shirt, hands folded in his lap. He sat next to Patricia Graves at the plaintiff's table and didn't say a word. He looked the same way he'd looked the night of the fight. Calm, still, unreadable. Bryce walked in 10 minutes later. No neck brace this time, no sling. Elliot Hayward had advised him to drop the theatrics in front of a judge. He wore a tailored navy blazer and a confident expression that didn't quite reach his eyes. The gallery was half full. Dana Wilson sat in the third row. Terrence Moore sat behind Jerome. 3 Summit Elite students, the ones who'd agreed to testify, sat along the far wall, nervous and quiet. Judge Moore opened the session and turned to Elliot Hayward first. "Counselor, your client filed the original complaint. Present your case." Elliot stood. He was polished, controlled. He laid out Bryce's argument with precision. Jerome Fletcher, a physically superior individual with professional fighting experience, had used excessive and disproportionate force against an unsuspecting civilian during what was meant to be a light-hearted promotional event. The waiver, Elliot argued, was signed under implicit employer coercion and therefore invalid. He played the edited clip on the courtroom monitor. 90 seconds, no context. Jerome throwing the first visible punch. The choke. Bryce on the ground. Freeze frame. "This man is dangerous," Elliot concluded, gesturing toward Jerome, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Judge Moore nodded, then turned to Patricia. "Counselor, your response." Patricia Graves stood slowly. She didn't rush. She placed a single USB drive on the table in front of her. "Your Honor, everything Mr. Hayward just presented is built on a lie, and I can prove it in the next 12 minutes. She plugged the USB into the courtroom system. The monitor flickered. And then the full, unedited live stream began to play, from the beginning. The courtroom watched Bryce snap his fingers at Jerome, watched him call Jerome mop guy in front of a laughing crowd, watched him slap $500 on the mat and dare Jerome to fight, his exact words preserved in perfect audio. Watched the students chant "Mop Man" while Jerome stood silent in the corner. Then the fight played, every second, including the 3 clear taps on the mat that Bryce had deleted from his version, including the moment Jerome released immediately, stood up, and offered his hand, including Bryce refusing to take it. The courtroom was dead silent when the video ended. Patricia didn't pause. She pulled up Dana Wilson's documentation next, a folder containing 14 separate video clips, time-stamped and dated, spanning 3 months of targeted harassment. Jerome being tripped on camera. Jerome being ordered to mop during active classes. Jerome being mocked in front of students. Each clip worse than the last. Then she called the 3 students to testify. One by one, they confirmed everything. The racial comments, the public humiliation, the laughter Bryce encouraged. One student, a 19-year-old named Tyler Davis, spoke quietly but clearly. He treated Jerome like he wasn't a person, Tyler said, like he was there for entertainment. I didn't say anything at the time. I should have. I'm saying it now. Elliot Hayward tried to recover. He shifted strategy. If he couldn't defend the edited video, he'd attack Jerome's past. Your Honor, Mr. Fletcher is not an innocent bystander. He's a trained professional fighter. A man with a documented history of violence inside a cage. He entered that mat knowing full well he could seriously injure my client. That's not self-defense. That's predatory. Patricia didn't flinch. Your Honor, Mr. Fletcher's professional record is 24 wins and 3 losses over 8 years in the UFC. 0 disciplinary actions, 0 complaints, 0 incidents outside the octagon. After retiring, he volunteered for 2 years at a youth community center in Charlotte, teaching conflict resolution. His record is spotless, inside the cage and out. She let that sit for a moment. Then she delivered the blow no one in the room saw coming. One more item, Your Honor. Patricia placed a single sheet of paper on the judge's bench. This is a certified copy of Summit Elite MMA's liability insurance policy. It expired 4 months before the event in question. The courtroom murmured. Mr. Callahan organized a public combat exhibition, broadcasted live to over 12,000 viewers, inside a facility with no active liability coverage. Under North Carolina state law, that constitutes an unlicensed combat event, a criminal violation, not a civil one. Elliot Hayward's face went white. He turned to Bryce. Bryce stared straight ahead, jaw locked, saying nothing. Judge Moore removed her glasses and looked directly at Bryce. Mr. Callahan, you filed a lawsuit claiming you were assaulted. The unedited footage shows you initiated the confrontation, issued the challenge, set the terms, and signed the waiver voluntarily. Your own edited video, submitted as evidence, was materially altered to remove context that contradicts your claims, and your facility was operating without valid insurance during a live combat event. She paused. I am dismissing your complaint, in its entirety, with prejudice. Bryce didn't move. His attorney gathered his papers in silence. But Patricia wasn't finished. Your Honor, before we adjourn, I'd like to enter one additional statement into the record. She opened a folder and placed a signed affidavit on the bench. This is a sworn statement from a former employee of Summit Elite MMA, a woman named Rachel Crawford. Ms. Crawford worked as a trainer at Mr. Callahan's gym for 11 months before resigning. Her statement details a pattern of verbal harassment, racial targeting, and intimidation nearly identical to what Mr. Fletcher experienced. The gallery shifted. Whispers spread through the rows. Ms. Crawford is prepared to testify, and she is not the only former employee who has come forward since Mr. Fletcher's story became public. Bryce's confident expression finally cracked. Not dramatically, not with tears or shouting, just a slow collapse behind the eyes. The look of a man realizing the walls he'd built were made of glass, and every single one of them was shattering at once. Judge Moore looked at Bryce over the top of her glasses. Mr. Callahan, I strongly suggest you retain experienced counsel for what comes next. You're going to need it." She struck the gavel once. Session adjourned. Jerome stood. Patricia placed a hand on his shoulder. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. But something in his posture had changed. His back was straighter. His shoulders were open. And for the first time in 9 years, he didn't look like a man trying to disappear. Terrence Moore met him in the hallway, grabbed his hand, pulled him close. "Ghost," he said quietly. "You're back." Jerome shook his head. "I never left, Terrence. I just stopped making noise." Outside the courthouse, Dana Wilson's phone buzzed with notifications. The hashtag had returned, bigger than before. Hashtag Justice for Jerome. And this time, it wasn't just about a fight. It was about everything that led to it. The fallout came fast, and it came from every direction. Within 72 hours of the hearing, the North Carolina State Athletic Commission opened a formal investigation into Summit Elite MMA. The lapsed insurance policy alone was enough to trigger a review. But combined with the public evidence of an unlicensed combat event broadcast to thousands of viewers, the outcome was inevitable. Summit Elite's operating license was suspended pending investigation. Bryce Callahan posted nothing. His Instagram went silent for the first time in 4 years. Within a week, 3 of his 4 corporate sponsors pulled out. The 4th issued a public statement distancing their brand from any individual involved in documented workplace misconduct. His follower count dropped from 85,000 to 51,000 in 10 days. The comment sections he once controlled were now flooded with a single hashtag. Hashtag Justice for Jerome. It trended nationally for 5 straight days. Then, Rachel Crawford's full interview aired on a Charlotte news station. She spoke clearly, without emotion, detailing 11 months of verbal abuse, racial targeting, and intimidation at Summit Elite. 2 more former employees came forward within the week. Their stories matched. The pattern was undeniable. Elliot Hayward quietly withdrew as Bryce's attorney. No public statement, no explanation. Just gone. Bryce Callahan, the man who once stood on a mat with a microphone and dared a janitor to fight for content, was now facing 3 separate harassment complaints, a state investigation, and a countersuit he had no way to win. He had built the trap himself. Every camera he turned on, every clip he posted, every dare he made on a live stream, all of it had become evidence. Not against Jerome, against him. Meanwhile, Jerome Fletcher's life began to change in ways he never expected. ProServe Solutions issued a formal written apology. Linda, his former supervisor, called personally. "I should have listened," she said. "I should have protected you instead of protecting the contract. I'm sorry, Jerome." Jerome accepted the apology. He did not go back. The real turning point came from a place called Eastside Community Center, a small nonprofit on the east side of Charlotte that served low-income families. The director, a woman named Gloria Adams, had watched the courtroom footage online. She called Patricia Graves the same afternoon. "We want to offer Mr. Fletcher a full-time position," Gloria said. "Paid, benefits, teaching self-defense classes to young people in the neighborhood, free of charge for every kid who walks through the door." Patricia passed the offer to Jerome. He accepted the same day. His first class was on a Saturday morning. The room was small, concrete walls, fluorescent lights, donated mats on the floor. Nothing like Summit Elite. No glass walls, no ring lights, no cameras. But it was packed. 23 kids showed up, ages 8 to 15. Some came with parents, some came alone. A few had seen the viral clip. Most had just heard that a man in their neighborhood was offering free lessons. Jerome stood in front of them in a plain black t-shirt and training pants. No gi, no belt, no title on the wall. He looked at the group for a long moment before speaking. "I'm not here to teach you how to hurt people," he said quietly. "I'm here to teach you how to protect yourselves. There's a difference. And that difference matters more than anything else you'll learn in this room." He spent the first 30 minutes teaching them how to stand. Feet shoulder-width apart, weight balanced, chin down, hands up. The most basic stance in martial arts, and the most important. He walked down the line, adjusting a shoulder here, tapping a foot there, patient, gentle. The same hands that had locked a rear-naked choke on national television now carefully repositioned a 9-year-old's fist. "Like this," he said, kneeling beside the boy. "Thumb outside, never inside. Good, just like that." The boy grinned. Jerome smiled back. It was the first time he had smiled in the entire story. Outside the community center, the movement was already growing. Dana Wilson had launched a social media campaign with a second hashtag that spread even faster than the first. Hashtag Stand Up, Not Down. Other gyms across the state began adopting formal codes of conduct. 3 local businesses offered sponsorship for Jerome's program. The Charlotte City Council cited the case during a public session, using it as the catalyst for a new municipal workplace anti-bullying ordinance. Jerome Fletcher had walked into Summit Elite as an invisible man with a mop. He walked out as proof that dignity doesn't disappear just because someone refuses to see it. 6 months later, Jerome Fletcher was invited onto one of the biggest podcasts in the country, 30 million subscribers. The host had followed the story from the first viral clip to the courtroom verdict. He wanted to hear it all, from Jerome himself. Jerome sat across the table in a plain gray hoodie. No entourage, no publicist, no prepared talking points. Just a man and a microphone. "So let me get this straight," the host said, leaning forward. "You mopped that man's floors for almost a year. He humiliated you on camera. He tripped you. He dared you to fight. And you still offered him your hand after you won?" Jerome nodded. "I wasn't there to prove I was better than him. I was there to prove he couldn't take what was left of me." The host went quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question everyone had been asking since the story broke. "Do you regret any of it?" Jerome thought about it. Not a quick answer. Not a rehearsed line. He sat with the question the way he sat with everything. Patiently. "I regret that it took being humiliated on camera for people to see me," he said. "I was the same man before that fight. Same hands, same heart, same story. But nobody looked twice until I proved I could hurt someone. That's the part that keeps me up at night." He paused. "I don't want kids growing up thinking they have to fight to be seen. I want them to know they matter before the first punch. That's why I teach. That's why I show up every Saturday, because somebody should have told me that when I was 9 years old." The clip from that interview was viewed 18 million times in its first week. Jerome's self-defense program at Eastside Community Center expanded to 3 locations across Charlotte within 4 months. A nonprofit foundation was established in his name, the Fletcher Foundation, dedicated to providing free martial arts training and mentorship to underserved youth. By the end of the year, similar programs had launched in Atlanta, Memphis, and Baltimore, all inspired by Jerome's model. The hashtags never fully disappeared. Hashtag Justice for Jerome became a symbol for workers' dignity, cited in op-eds, referenced in labor rights discussions, printed on t-shirts sold to raise funds for the foundation. Hashtag Stand Up Not Down became something bigger. It became a movement. Schools adopted it as an anti-bullying slogan. Community centers painted it on their walls. It showed up in graduation speeches and city council meetings, and handwritten signs held by kids who had never heard of the UFC, but knew exactly what it meant to be underestimated. As for Bryce Callahan, he settled Jerome's countersuit out of court. The terms were confidential. Summit Elite MMA never reopened. Bryce deleted all his social media accounts and left Charlotte quietly. No interview, no apology, no comeback story. Some people build their own downfall, one live stream at a time. Jerome never spoke about Bryce publicly again. When asked, he simply said, "That chapter's closed. I'm writing a new one." Now I want to hear yours. If Jerome's story moved you, if it reminded you of a time someone looked right through you and had no idea what you were capable of, drop it in the comments. Tell me about the moment someone underestimated you. I read every single one. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today, someone who's been overlooked, someone who's been told they're not enough. Let them know the world is watching now. And if you haven't already, subscribe, hit that bell, because the next story might be yours. One last thing, remember this. Respect the mop. You never know who's holding it.
Here's what I took from this. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't. The people who look down on you, who call you names, who laugh at you, who think they know your whole story from your job title, they don't deserve your proof. They deserve nothing. And here's what I also know. There will come a moment, one moment, when the truth can't stay quiet anymore, when everything you've been carrying, everything you've held back, everything you swallowed, everything you let slide comes out. And when that moment comes, you don't need to scream, you don't need to brag, you just show up. Be who you've always been and let the truth do the talking. Because the truth is louder than any insult, louder than any video, louder than any lie someone edits together to make themselves look good. The truth doesn't need followers, it doesn't need lies, it just needs time. So if someone's underestimating you right now, let them. Keep working, keep showing up, keep being exactly who you are. Your moment is coming, and when it does, they will remember your name for the rest of their life. Like, share, and subscribe. Real stories, real justice, every week. And remember, never judge someone by the job they do. You have no idea what they've done or what they are capable of.